This Manchester City meltdown is both hilarious and insane at the same time. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome to another video. Yes, today's video is going to centre around this Manchester City meltdown that this club are currently going through. Pep Guardiola's side are on a horrific run these past couple of months in all competitions. They are without a win in however many it is games now. But this is completely alien to both Guardiola, his players, and of course the Manchester City fan base, which have enjoyed so much success over the past few years in particular, that their fans do not know how to handle this run of dismal and somewhat pathetic form that they are in right now. We're going to be talking about this City meltdown. We're going to be talking about the players' reaction, the manager's reaction, the fans, and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. Get involved in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, that I'm sure make for great and interesting reading down below in that comment section. So please do get involved. Use and abuse that comment section. People would love to hear what you have to say on this Manchester City run right now. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Manchester City. Let's talk everything about them, Pep Guardiola, their fans, players, and everything else in between. This is completely alien to Manchester City. This is completely alien to Pep Guardiola, what they're currently going through. And to a lot of these City fans, whether they're recent or maybe recency bias has taken over them, this is completely alien to them, what they are currently going through in terms of an extremely bad run of form. So much so that many people, including myself, have honestly come to the conclusion that maybe, just maybe, their title challenge is over before it's even really begun. I know we are only in December, but let's face it, an 11-point gap between themselves and league leaders Liverpool, and with Chelsea and Arsenal also cranking up the momentum, it does seem like it's a massive uphill battle that Pep Guardiola and Manchester City are going to have to go through if they want to not only defend their Premier League crown, but to also make it 5 Premier League titles on the bounce. What we have seen, though, in the aftermath of these games, what we have seen in the incredible aftermath of losing a number of games, going on a winless run, going on a losing streak in the Premier League, and just all in all not even being able to really lay a glove on these oppositions, sort of losing their fear factor a little bit, is the fact that Guardiola's come out and made some strange comments. The Man City fan base seems in complete turmoil right now. They are in absolute chaos. And the players, well, certain players aren't exactly helping their own cause. Kevin De Bruyne's contract situation remains up in the air. His kind of distraction, I guess, isn't helping things. Phil Foden has come out and posted photos of him with the number of trophies that he's won over the past year alone, over the past few years, and even the individual accolades, like being Manchester City's Player of the Year. That's not helping things. For those of you who are Arsenal fans and Manchester United fans of years and years and years and years gone by, you'll know that when your teams weren't exactly doing great, didn't your star players do that kind of thing? Didn't the likes of Rashford come out and do that? I could be wrong in just naming Rashford, but off the top of my head, I seem to believe Rashford did something similar. And didn't other players from both Arsenal and Manchester United, just picking those two at random, because they're probably the most notorious, but didn't those two players in particular, or those two clubs, shall I say, in particular, do that kind of stuff? And wasn't that kind of met with a level of anger and frustration from your own fan bases because they're not currently performing on the pitch? It's alright talking about what you did in the past. No one's going to discredit you for what you have done in the past, but what about the here and now? And that's what the likes of Foden are doing. I'm sure there's been other comments made by Ruben Diaz, by Bernardo Silva, whoever from Manchester City. I seem to recall hearing or reading snippets of interviews and things like that of them. But yeah, that just seems strange to me. The Guardiola thing everything about him right now seems to suggest he's losing it. The scratches, the scars on his face in the aftermath of the Feyenoord game. Was that meant to be some sort of distraction tactic, which ultimately is backfired? The whole, you're getting sacked in the morning at Liverpool, and he turns round and does that. Nice of him to acknowledge our six Champions League titles, but no, let's be real. We all know what he was doing with that. And it was very Mourinho-esque, wasn't it? Everyone has been talking about it, making the comparisons between Pep and Mourinho. Pep's come out and actually acknowledged it, and I think there was a question thrown at him stating that exact comparison. He basically he tried to laugh it off. Tried to pass it off. He's trying to be the cool, calm Guardiola, but it's not coming across that way anymore. It's really not coming across that way. And that's why this sort of meltdown and why this sort of downward spiral of Manchester City these past couple of months has really shattered this illusion of him being cool, calm, collected Pep Guardiola. It shattered this illusion. It shattered this fear factor in Manchester City. And even before this bad run of form started, City weren't exactly in the best of form. Their performances were just about getting them by in games. Their individual and star talents were bailing them out. Erling Haaland was scoring goals at free will. And everything was seemingly going normal for City. Because let's face it, even though the performances weren't there for City, the results were. And normally what happens with City is that the performances tend to grow as the season progresses. They normally get by. They normally hit a mini dip, admittedly. They normally go on a couple of games where they lose. But then after that couple of games where they lose, that's where they go, right, let's now focus up. Let's regroup, regather, redesign. And they go again. And that's where the fear factor then kicks in again. But this season, it's not just a lack of Rodri. We've talked about it before. It's not just a lack of Rodri. There are other things going on with this team. An aging squad. A squad which are seemingly resting on their laurels. Even though I don't understand how Pep's allowing that to happen. A squad that is seemingly not hungry enough anymore. I see the comparison. I see the differences between them and say Arsenal and Chelsea and Liverpool that are all currently above them. And I see those sides having much more hunger and determination, not just to overthrow City, but just to win the damn league in its entirety. I don't see that with City. I really don't. I see a nervous City side. I see a side that is lacking leadership. I see a side which is lacking someone to really take them and the game by the scruff of the neck and drive them through. There's been a lot of lackluster and underwhelming performances, both individually and as a collective unit in that squad. And like I say, the entirety of that squad is in turmoil right now. The squad coming out, or some members of the squad coming out and saying certain things to the media and saying certain things online and in interviews and things like that. Guardiola absolutely losing it with the crowd and stuff, and it's crazy to me. And the baffling thing about this entire thing is it's the media attention, or the lack of media attention that this is getting. People in the media seem to think that if they criticise Pep Guardiola, they're discrediting him. No. As I said with Phil Foden moments ago, you can criticise someone for their here and now without discrediting them for what they've managed to achieve in their career so far. Because I know for a fact, Rafa Benitez, fact, I know for a fact that if this was Jurgen Klopp, if this was Sir Alex Ferguson, if this was Arsene Wenger, if this was Jose Mourinho, and maybe you can add a few more names to that list, but if that was any one of them, if they went through this bad run of form, they would get absolutely crucified by the media. And how do I know that's a fact? Because they have been. Like, I know Sir Alex Ferguson didn't exactly experience a lot of failure in his time at Manchester United, and I'm talking more the modern era than when he obviously first arrived at Manchester United, because obviously he built up so much beyond that point, and then towards the end of his career and everything. But if he was to go that length of time without winning anything, without winning a game, without winning a piece of silverware, he'd get crucified for it. The media would have a field day ripping into Sir Alex Ferguson. The media would have a field day ripping into Jose Mourinho, because they knew for a fact that Jose Mourinho would bite back, and that's exactly what he did. And that's exactly what he did towards the end of his time at Chelsea. It's exactly what he did towards the end of his time at Man United. Jurgen Klopp got it because, again, they knew that if they kept nibbling at Jurgen Klopp, they knew they would get a reaction from him. And at some stages, they did, and it painted Klopp to be a bad guy. And in actual reality, he wasn't. He was just annoyed by the media constantly poking him. Remember, you don't poke a sleeping giant. You don't poke a sleeping bear unless you want your face to be clawed off. That's exactly what the media does to these guys. And Wenger was the same when he was coming towards the end of his tenure at Arsenal. It happens by the media, and the media are the worst for it. But for whatever reason, the media seem to believe and have this weird idea that Guardiola is above all criticism, because so far, from what I've seen, the majority of the media outlets that I've been watching, reading, following, have all basically stated that, oh, he has injuries. Oh, there's an injury crisis. There's not an injury crisis. I said this with Arsenal at the beginning of the season. There's not an injury crisis. Never has been at any club right now. You know, maybe you could argue Spurs with a couple of centre-backs. An injury crisis to me is when the majority of your first team is out. Or an injury crisis is where you have several players in a specific position and they're all out. I'm talking like mainly like centre-backs, like what Liverpool did a few years ago. That was an injury crisis. An injury crisis is like Man United last year having like 16 players out all at random times, overlapping each other, random times, whatever, stopping the momentum. City haven't had that. City have had one or two injuries, but none, in my opinion, more so than what anybody else has had. They've still thrown a lot of money at this squad. So why is Guardiola above criticism from these media outlets? I don't get it. Criticise him. Criticise his use of different experiments and formations in the past few games. Criticise him seemingly not knowing what his strongest team is. Criticise him, I don't know, maybe his substitutions, the way he's playing right now, the way he's not changing things up, the lack of KDB in the team. What's going on there? Where is KDB at? He's clearly fit, he's clearly on the bench, and he's clearly fit not to start, so where the hell has he been these past few weeks? Criticise that. Criticise the players for not being good enough. Criticise the players for not performing to the level we know they can. It's just weird to me that he seems to be above criticism, and it all seems to be falling on the fan base, which, like I say, are going through different territory right now. They're going through territory that is unknown to them because they're not used to this level declining so much. They're not used to having several games where they've lost in a row. And the fan base right now that I'm seeing is turning toxic. It's turning, in some cases, a little abusive. It's in absolute total chaos and disarray, Manchester City, from top to bottom. The squad's in serious need of a rebuild. Pep Guardiola seemingly needs a rest. And just whilst we're on that point, by the way, a lot of people who were laughing at Jurgen Klopp and mocking him for coming out last season and saying he needs a rest, he's mentally drained, he's mentally tired, and he's running out of energy. For those of you that were mocking him last season, I think you can clearly see right now that the life of a head coach, the life of a manager that was in Guardiola and Klopp's shoes has a lot going on. Not just in terms of mentally, but emotionally, and maybe even physicality as well. there is a lot going there over the years. And that's why we should put a ton more respect on Sir Alex Ferguson for doing it for so much and for so long the way that he did. And why we should respect when someone says, you know what? I think it's time I just put this aside. I think it's time I left, stepped aside, stepped down and let someone else take charge because I can't continue whilst I'm not in the right shape, whether it be mentally, physically or emotionally. I think you're starting to see that with Guardiola. I don't want to jump to too many conclusions. I obviously don't want to speak for him or anything. But at the same time, I think we can now see that maybe coming to the surface with Pep Guardiola. And that's why, again, don't mock Jurgen Klopp when he comes out and says he's running out of energy. Because what we are seeing right now from Guardiola is maybe a similar thing. Klopp didn't have the meltdown that he's having right now, seemingly. But at the same time, it's still pretty bad. But yes, squad needs rebuilding. Guardiola seemingly needs a rest. And the fan base, the fan base need keeping in order, man. It's an absolute shambles from top to bottom. And like I say, I go back to my opening comment. It's both hilarious and insane at the same time. The insanity is for all the many reasons I've stated in this video already. And the hilariousness is obviously from a rival fan's perspective, from the outside looking in. It is kind of funny to watch this team that has endured so much success over the past few years going chaos because they've lost a few games in a row. They've had so much success, more success than what a lot of teams will ever see in their lifetime or or with their club. And yet, Man City are going crazy over a few games in which they have lost. Now, I expect them to beat, well, I put in my predictions that I said they will draw against Forest tonight. But I would not be surprised if they won tonight. I would not be surprised if they got back to winning ways tonight against Forest. But at the same time, I wouldn't be too confident. I genuinely would not be too confident on that. But we shall wait and see about tonight. I think their title race is done. I think they should turn their attention to the Champions League, the FA Cup, that kind of thing. There is still a chance of redeeming their season, however little that may be. But this fan base needs keeping in order. The squad needs rebuilding, and Guardiola seemingly needs a rest. That's just my honest take and my honest views on the Manchester City situation. As I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this Pep Guardiola and Manchester City situation? Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on this topic down below in the comments section. Would love to hear what you have to say on all of that. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Thank you all so much for your continued or even brand new support to the channel. It's very much appreciated. Welcome along if you are new. Thank you very much for joining this journey. Always and forever will be greatly appreciated. As I'm going to say, I'm Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I will see and speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. Speak to you all again very, very soon.